William R. Noje was in Ukraine during the Orange Revolution of 2004, where he was posted in Kharkov, eastern Ukraine, then to Yalta and the Crimean. In 2005, Mr. Noje was in Afghanistan to monitor elections with a delegation from the International Republican Institute. Born in the Soviet Union in 1966, Felix H. Sater immigrated with his family to Brighton Beach when he was 8 years old. At 24, he was a successful Wall Street broker. At 27, he was in prison after a bloody bar fight. And at 32, he was accused of conspiring with the mafia to launder money and defraud investors. Along the way, he became embroiled in a plan to buy anti-aircraft missiles on the black market for the Central Intelligence Agency in either Russia or Afghanistan, depending on which of his former associates is telling the story. But in recent years, Mr. Sater has resurfaced with a slightly different name and a new business card identifying him as a real estate executive based on Fifth Avenue. And although he may not be a household name, one of the people he is doing business with is Donald J. Trump. Mr. Sater, who now goes by the name Sater, has been jetting to Denver, Phoenix, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and elsewhere since 2003, promoting potential projects in partnership with Mr. Trump and others. In New York, the company Mr. Sater works for, Bayrock Group, is a partner in the Trump Soho, a sleek 46-story glass tower condominium hotel under construction on a newly fashionable section of Spring Street. But much remains unknown about Mr. Sater, 41, and determining the truth about his past is a bit like unraveling the plot of a spy novel. Almost every character tells a different tale. A federal complaint brought against him in a 1998 money laundering and stock manipulation case was filed in secret and remains under seal. A subsequent indictment in March 2000 stemming from the same investigation described Mr. Sater as an unindicted co-conspirator and a key figure in a $40 million scheme involving 19 stockbrokers and organized crime figures from 4 mafia families. The indictment asserted that Mr. Sater helped create fraudulent stock brokerages that were used to defraud investors and launder money. Mr. Sater and his lawyer, Judd Burstein, repeatedly refused to discuss in detail his role in the stock scam. But a one-time friend, Gennady Klatsman, who is known as Gene and who was accused of Mr. Sater as a co-conspirator, contends that they both pleaded guilty in 1998 and that Mr. Sater began cooperating with the authorities. Prosecutors are unwilling to discuss either the 1998 complaint or the 2000 indictment. Mr. Sater, who has an untitled position at Bayrock, said he started spelling his name as Sater to distance himself from a past in an age when anyone can look up a name on Google. Mr. Burstein added, he does not hide his past and difficulties he had from anybody he does business with. But Alex Sapir, president of the Sapir organization, a partner in Trump Soho, said he was not happy to have just learned of Mr. Sater's past on Thursday. This is all news to me, he said. Mr. Trump also said he was surprised to learn of Mr. Sater's past. We never knew that, he said of Mr. Sater. We do as much of a background check as we can on the principals. I didn't really know him very well. Mr. Trump said that most of his dealings with Bayrock had been with its founder, Tevfik Harif, and that his son Donald and his daughter Ivanka were playing active roles in managing the project. Neither Bayrock nor Mr. Trump has been accused of wrongdoing. Mr. Sater has generally kept a low profile on the Trump projects, although he mingled with guests and the owners at a September party introducing Trump Soho. Mr. Trump and Mr. Sater were also together in Loveland, Colorado in 2005, where they were interviewed by a reporter for the Rocky Mountain News about potential development deals in nearby Denver. Mr. Trump said he did not recall Mr. Sater's being there. They seemed to get along just fine, said Justin Henderson, a Denver developer who worked with Mr. Trump and Mr. Sater on an ultimately unsuccessful deal to build the tallest towers in Colorado. It seemed that Mr. Trump relied heavily on Mr. Sater's opinion on certain markets. From the mid-90s, Mr. Trump's pursuit of Russia was strengthened by a growing circle of partners and associates in Canada and the United States who had roots in the region. Among them were Tevfik Arif, Felix Sater's neighbor in Sands Point on Long Island, who founded the development company Bayrock. Mr. Arif is a former economist for the Soviet government, who built a chain of 5 luxury hotels in Turkey and Kazakhstan after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Bayrock was headquartered in Trump Tower, 2 floors below the Trump Organization. Mr. Sater said he joined Bayrock in 2003 at the urging of the company's founder, Mr. Arif. It was 2005, and Felix Sater was back in Moscow pursuing an ambitious plan to build a Trump Tower on the site of an old pencil factory along the Moscow River that would offer hotel rooms, condominiums, and commercial office space. Letters of intent had been signed, and square footage was being analyzed. Mr. Sater said there was an opportunity to explore building Trump towers internationally, and Russia was one of those countries. While working to take Trump-branded towers to Arizona, Florida, and New York's Soho neighborhood, Bayrock also began scouting for deals in Russia and other countries. We looked at some very, very large properties in Russia, Mr. Sater said. Think of a large Vegas high-rise. Mr. Trump continued to work with Mr. Sater even after his role in a huge stock manipulation scheme involving mafia figures and Russian criminals was revealed. Mr. Sater pleaded guilty and served as a government informant. During a trip in 2006, Felix Sater and two of Mr. Trump's children, Donald Jr. and Ivanka, stayed at the historic Hotel National, Moscow, opposite the Kremlin, connecting with potential partners over the course of several days. Mr. Sater said their attitude could be summarized as, "Nice, big city, great, let's do a deal here." In 2007, Mr. Trump discussed a deal for a Trump International Hotel and Tower in Moscow that Bayrock had lined up with Russian investors. It would be a non-exclusive deal, so it would not have precluded me from doing other deals in Moscow, which was very important to me, Mr. Trump said in a deposition in an unsuccessful libel suit he brought against Tim O'Brien, a journalist. "We're going to do one fairly soon," Mr. Trump insisted. "Moscow will be one of the cities where we will be." In 2007, Drinks Americas signed a deal to export 50,000 cases of Trump vodka annually to Russia. In a news release, Mr. Trump heralded it as a tremendous achievement. From 2006 to 2008, his company applied for several trademarks in Russia, including Trump, Trump Tower, Trump International Hotel and Tower, and Trump Home, according to a record search by Soju's Patent, a Russian intellectual property firm. Mr. Trump tried and failed to start a reality show in St. Petersburg in 2008 starring a Russian mixed martial arts fighter. The vodka was sold in Russia as late as 2009, but eventually fizzled out, while real estate developments remained a constant goal.